right, let's get started.
Captain's log.
How in the name of Zeus's butthole did you get out of your cell?
This is my sister. You can all have her. I hear she's very good.
I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but two things right now. Jack and shit. Jack left town.
All right. Wait a second. Wait a goddamn second. Wait a second. The show, yeah, we'll get a show in a minute. Calm the goddamn hell down. Listen. First of all, like and subscribe, all that bullshit. I don't even know why I have to say that shit. You know, people just look. I may have voted for Trump. Look, I just understand that. Okay, it's just what rats do. All right, that's what I was told. I gotta say though, I had no idea that it'd be this good. Honestly, I mean, what more could... I mean, you know how they say rats leaving a sinking ship? That's because we've eaten our fill and we're good. You know, I like this shit. So, no complaints. I don't want to hear shit from anybody. Just, so, whee! That's all I'm saying. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go chew on Matt Gaetz's carcass. So, hey, what the, no, my I'm sorry about that, everybody. I apologize. That was, I shouldn't allow that to happen. It just does sometimes, you know. Chat room, hi, everybody. Sometimes Matt the Maggoty Rat manages to sneak in here. And it's just rough. Ficus has been hunting for him. I hear he's going to be making a comeback very soon. I've got, but it takes some work. I think I'm going to be able to coax this in. Yes, I did this earlier. I did an earlier show and then a later show because I didn't get to do both shows yesterday. So, let's jump straight in, shall we? Happy Thursday. Hi, everybody. Welcome. You know, there are times, ladies and gentlemen, if I do say so my damn self, that things look shitty and bleak. Shit, you know, shitty, like you're like, oh, the people who are in charge of shit are incompetent assholes. And I don't know, I have to say, one of the upsides might be that they are traitorous, incompetent assholes. And when you're a traitor and you're incompetent, you fuck up and you get caught. So that's helpful. I would rather them be fuck ups and traitors at the same time rather than just, you know, just traitors. It helps that they suck at everything they do. And I don't know why everybody in the media and everywhere else seems to think that they're just going to magically fucking get away with it. That it's like, but they are. No, they're not. And look, they only get away with stuff that when we give up on reminding the world about them. So this includes Garcia, who's, you know, again, we all fear for this man who's been shipped off to El Salvador. And in any normal, you know, era on Earth 1, if somebody hadn't been fucking with the simulation, which they clearly have done, this would have ended his presidency. This would be another impeachment. But however, but unfortunately, apparently, and I don't know, this might come as a shock to you. Apparently, a bunch of Democrats, in air quotes, stood down last election cycle because they thought he'd be better as a humanitarian than Harris would. And I know what you're thinking. How, of course, that's what they said, but nobody's that fucking stupid. And I would agree with you. For a while, we thought that the uncommitted and the Arab Americans for Trump and the progressives who were, Again, they had no problem stomping around the DNC with signs, but they wouldn't go anywhere near fucking Mar-a-Lago when Netanyahu was making visits and they were planning all this shit. They didn't care about that part. So I have to draw the conclusion that nobody can be that stupid, so they meant it. They wanted this. So when we say nobody voted for this shit, you might actually have an argument for some maggots that are getting hurt by this because they're just stupid. But you know who did vote for this? Hashtag uncommitted. That's who voted for this shit. They took an active choice to, instead of doing the adult fucking thing, and vote for the lesser of two evils, which, by the way, in a drop-off from pickpocket to serial killer, the pickpocket is the lesser of two evils, but there's a huge fucking slope down to it. You understand? Okay. These motherfuckers, I can't, I feel like it would be insulting to assume that they're dumb. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and just say they're evil. Because holy shit. In the meantime, if they'd had an incredibly effective campaign of pulling this shit off and not have to do it with all executive orders that will be will be erased by the next president, even if they're a Republican. But that's the other thing. We always talk about, like, Trump's going to sign all these things, and the next Democrat that's in office is going to get rid of them. I got news for you. The next Republican's going to get rid of them. Even if they manage to get somebody in. Either they're blather, and they'll just let him float because it doesn't matter, or he's undermining shit for a 4-year cycle that can be recovered after a period of time. And that's what they'll have to do to salvage their own presidency. Because you know how a Democrat is always forced to kind of clean up the mess that a Republican left behind? Like, I don't know, 2020 into Biden. Or Obama after Bush. Or Clinton after Reagan Bush. Where we end up getting a surplus, or the economy comes around and something terrible happens and we come in with a fucking mop bucket and fix everything. I got news for you. The next Republican who tries to run for office is still going to have to do that. I think a Democrat's going to win next time. However, even if they didn't, the next Republican will have to run on all kinds of social programs that he has undercut in red states, fucking with his own people. As a matter of fact, you can argue that that's already happening with the budget fight and with the upcoming midterms. Now, I'll show you this. Hold on. Let's see. Johnson, budget, 12 Republicans. I think that's the number right now. Yeah. Case in point. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Hal Sparks, and I'll be Hal Sparksing the rest of the evening. This is Hal Sparks, Megaworldwide. Case in point. Go away. A dozen House Republicans fire warning shot at Mike Johnson. Figuratively, thanks, Axios. A dozen swing district and centrist House Republicans, people they like to call rhinos and the like, but they need their votes. And if they lose, a Democrat gets in, so they got to listen to them and have our warning speaker, Mike Johnson, that they won't vote for a budget reconciliation package that cuts Medicaid too deeply. Now, I love the too deeply part, because most of what they've said is at all. Because if you start cutting it, guess who gets hurt first? That's right, rural rednecks, ladies and gentlemen, and the people that keep them alive. The GOP's clash over how much to offset their planned $4 trillion in tax cuts was on full display last week as the Freedom Caucus rebelled over a Senate budget measure that mandated only $4 billion in cuts. The House had initially passed a budget resolution that would require $1.5 trillion in cuts and would likely reduce Medicaid funding. What they're saying, the 12 lawmakers wrote a letter saying balancing the federal budget must not come at the expense of their health and economic security. This is about their constituents. The lawmakers issued an ultimatum. We cannot and will not support a final reconciliation bill that includes any reduction in Medicaid coverage for vulnerable populations. And it's signed by Republican California, Republican Nebraska, Republican New Jersey, Republican Pennsylvania, Republican Arizona, Republican Virginia, Republican California, Virginia, New York, New York, New York, Colorado. These are all people who could lose their fucking seat next time around if they make the cuts they're talking about. So whoever the Republicans run next time is going to start making promises that are going to sound a shit ton like repealing what Trump has done. Now, the other thing is, I was told, and I'm sure you've heard this around, that Republicans would get tired of winning. Remember, you're going to get tired of winning. Trump said that to everybody. Tell you you're going to get tired of winning. Well, they aren't winning. And they're getting little reprieves at best. But on top of that, they don't look tired of winning, but they do look just fucking tired. Pam Bondi, and here's Homan too. None of the people doing any of the actual fucking work in Trump world, Hegseth gets to go on these little fucking military like vacations while these assholes actually have to do real work. Pam Bondi looks like shit. And it looks like she's not eating and she's probably lacking sleep because of stress. And she's dealing with the actual work of the Justice Department, whether she likes it or not. She's on Fox News saying, and this is adorable. Can I just say, Pam Bondi, every American should be thanking Trump tonight. How about no, you crazy Dutch bastard?
First is the U.S. Attorney General, Pam Bondi.
Oh, by the way, I think that's a clip. Hold on. Is that, was he just showing a clip of him from the Easter thing? Because, good God, that was horrifying.
First is the U.S. Attorney General, Pam Bondi is with us. Pam, great to see you. I want to put up on the screen a timeline because there's...
You too. I couldn't be happier to be here. Can we finish this before the Xanax really kicks in?
Seems to be, in the media especially, a narrative that is completely and totally and utterly false regarding... quote,
the media, right? You know, especially the big cable networks, right? Fuck those guys. Oh, right.
Garcia, and not one but two courts actually said he was an MS-13 gang member and identified him as such. Can you please...
Yeah, there's no such thing. A court can't identify someone as an MS-13 gang member. You kind of have to prove they are. Tattoos don't do it, and wearing a fucking Chicago Bulls hat doesn't make you an MS-13 member, or I would have been a tangential member of MS-13 half the time I was in high school.
Explain what you know about him.
Yeah, Sean, factually, this is an extremely disturbing case. And as a career...
Identified as an MS-13 man in 2019, in March and April. Found to be, during Trump, by the way. Can I notice, like, can I mention it? Like, dude came into the country, was around during this time, and then during Trump, he's fucking accused of being a gang member, identified as one. How? How? A tattoo and a hat, and the hat and the tattoo's what, like a crown, and that means he's a member of the fucking Latin Kings and therefore must be blah blah blah. Like,
prosecutor, it is even more disturbing. Every American tonight should be thanking Donald Trump for making America safer by getting...
Why? What did he do? What did he do? Was he selling drugs? No. Did he violently assault somebody? No. Was he guilty of any crime whatsoever? Ever?
Out of our country. I'm going to call him a terrorist because he has been designated as a member of a terrorist organization. So this illegal alien terrorist came into our country illegally. Okay,
so, and this is the other one. Wife requests a restraining order, June 2021. That would be the one standout thing for me. But what he's again, immaterial to the fact that you can't prove he's a gang member. Why not just go with this? Like, domestic charges against violence charges against him, blah, blah, blah. But the reason is because they can't, let me shrink this down, can't get rid of him based on that because you'd have to prove it in a court of law and that it actually turned into something, that part of thing. Like they don't want to go through it. They just want to, and the January 2025 thing as DOJ timeline having to do with him has nothing to do with him. If a guy was, okay, there's a bunch of gang members that do like outreach, for example. Used to be Crips or Bloods. They do work in the community. We've seen them over the years. They were, I'm sure, at some point, identified, often jailed as members of those gangs, active members of those gangs. And then they're no longer in that gang. They might still have the tattoos. They might still be a fucking Lakers fan, but they're not a gang member anymore. As a matter of fact, they do the exact opposite. But their argument is that if you tried somebody, if they used to be affiliated with them, or they said at any time in the past they were affiliated with them, whether they were or not, by the way, they could have been just scooped up in a raid. Let's say they weren't even there. They were just swept up in it. But let's assume that they actually were back in the day. Years later, over a decade later, while they're holding down a regular job, they've got a wife and kids, they have the president declares the gang that they used to be a part of or were alleged to used to be a part of a terrorist organization, and therefore they can be removed from the country. They can have their citizenship stripped or something like that. That's the argument, which is grotesque and absurd and silly. And why don't we do this with Elon Musk? I mean, you could argue we've declared the white South Africans as as a violent regime back in the 80s and the early 90s, right? That the apartheid government and the people who participated in it, which would include Mae Musk and her husband, wouldn't that qualify them as being part of an organization that was, a racial separatist organization? I mean, we have rules against giving visas to people like that. I mean, he worked illegally. That's the other thing. He came in as an illegal immigrant because while he was a student, he started working and he didn't have a work visa. That would also be on his DOJ timeline. Okay, let's continue.
March of 2012. We know that because he admitted that when he was stopped in 2019 by the anti-gang squad. They stopped him at a Home Depot with 3 other members. And here's what's very important. He was wearing a sweatshirt with gang insignia on it.
Really? What was the insignia?
The guy he was with, another MS.
I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Do MS-13 wear badges? Badges? We don't know, stinking badges.
Known member had a tattoo with very similar insignia.
Oh, okay. Very similar. So, sorry. So, okay. Let me run with this, Pam Bondi. Let's see. So, let's go with tears. Okay, is it crown? I'm going to try and find the aces, the live. Yeah, there you go. Does that cross look familiar? This one right here. That's a gang cross in from Russian prisons. It symbolizes the Prince of Thieves. Is the idea that he was crucified as such. Highest rank in the Russian convict can achieve. Generally worn by higher ups in the mob. And didn't we just see Russell, Rusty Trombone show off his little cross tattoo? I know it's similar, Pam. I'm just saying there's a chance that Russell Brand might be, a Russian gun and drug smuggler, and he probably is a danger to citizenry. I think you might have to send the military to get him because it's similar insignia.
ICE declared him as a member of MS-13. The police.
Yeah, that still doesn't mean he is, though. So and again, declaration is the standard. Yeah, I mean, it can't be. You can't declare someone a gang member. You have to be found guilty of being a part of that gang. You got to either do a RICO or you got to figure some way to prove their affiliation. And by the way, current affiliation, because a lot of people get swept up in stuff when they're a fucking kid and they're in this stuff, and tattoos tend to be forever. And when you get them when you're 16 years old, because it's that or get your head stomped, there's a lot of people in different neighborhoods or in places in the world where they get swept into this shit and then they're trying to have a fucking better life and they go and get their tattoos removed. So the idea is, Pam Bondi, is that anybody with a cross tattoo, we're just going to assume that they're Russian mob from now on. How's that? Like Pete Hegseth, for example.
Officers, the gang unit, declared him as a member of MS-13.
Did they say, I do declare? I do declare he is a gang member. I damn thee.
And also, they independently went to a reliable, confidential informant who said not only is he a member of MS-13, he gave them the clique, the Westerns, and he was called a Chicao, which is one of the higher-ranking MS-13 members. So they rightfully detained him, rightfully. An immigration judge agreed. An appellate immigration judge agreed. Now, here's where it gets even more frightening. In
Okay, here's the really frightening stuff. Okay, this is the 2021 stuff.
2021, his girlfriend previously, his wife at the time, who he had married in jail after he'd gotten numerous tickets, didn't show up for court. He marries her in jail. She has a baby with him. And as a career domestic
in jail
violence prosecutor, too, I know it takes a lot for any woman to come into court and say they're a victim of domestic violence. This woman came into court twice, getting a restraining order against him, saying it's horrific. He had beaten her. He had punched her in the eye. He had ripped her clothes off. What causes a young mother to do this? Her child was with her. She talked about her child in the petition for an injunction for safety. Ultimately, she didn't show up for court. That's your typical domestic violence victim. But
okay, first of all, let's flip this twice. I have no sympathy for men who beat women or domestic violence, period. But let's look at this from the perspective of provable versus not provable, accusation versus not. The Republicans, especially Trump, have been running on this idea that women lie about this shit all the time, and that she may have, if this was one of their own, they would be arguing that she's trying to manipulate him. Like, look at how Trump talks about his sexual assault victims, right? Just dismisses their claims outright. So the picking and choosing of who you want to believe and how the veracity of the claims based on who you like and the color of the skin of the people you don't like is very telling. Secondly, I'd like to say that the idea that they picked him up and he'd done these things and they sent him overseas and didn't give him due process in doing this is the problem. And what they're trying to do is get you all caught up in the guy. This guy should be brought back to the United States and have a deportation trial where these facts can be adjudicated. And then if he is to be deported, he can be. But the idea that you're going to snatch him off the fucking street and deport him without any hearing is the problem. And the issue is that in cases like this, they'll use people that are unsympathetic to set this law in motion. And this used to be something that they would warn us about from the right, about the Patriot Act and all these kind of things. Like, never mind that at first they came for the Jews and then there was no one left to defend me at the end because I was a lonely bigot in a corner who didn't give a fuck about anybody. So why would they in the first place? I guess I've never understood that one because the guy in the story is a prick. And it's also so self-involved, it grosses me out. But what they're trying to do is play on your sympathies about, it very well may be true that this guy's an asshole and he was lying about his gang affiliation. I don't care. I'm not worried about what the law of the jungle is in MS-13 and gangs and how El Salvador handles shit. I want the American judicial system and the legal system to stand for something better. If we start having a legal system based on trust me, bro, we're fucked. We're no longer America. That's the problem. I mean, there's a myriad of problems, but at the root of it, that seems to be the area where they could kind of grasp what the fuck we're talking about. You agree with me as CSL that everybody looks bagged out? Yeah, she's definitely talking, to different time zones these days. Yeah, it's rough. But my issue with this is don't fucking come to me and try to play to my sympathies about domestic violence or about gang violence, because it's not about them and it's not about that. We already know how we feel about those things. The issue is whether you can prove it and whether you can grab somebody off the fucking street who is either here legally and has family, children, and a wife here in the country at all without proving your case. Because once you do that, we're Russia. We're no longer America. China wins when we become China. Russia wins when we become Russia. And is it harder? Yes. Is it uncomfortable? Yes. It is. We have long had a judicial system where it'd be better that 10 guilty men go free than one innocent man be jailed, go to prison or be killed for capital punishment. That has to be the standard, right? That has to be the standard. Otherwise, we're not our country anymore. And if you want to talk about what a traitor is, well, what the fuck? What would you say a Manchurian candidate would do? Undermine our system so that China can take over? Well, what would they do? They'd bend our legal system and our judicial system and our governing system to their system. Well, why would they bother if we're going to do it for them? Do you understand? I'm not going to be sympathetic to the particular case because I'm not stupid enough to think that it'll just stop there. That if you can deport somebody or kick them out without any kind of a hearing, that there won't be a slippery slope in the future. And all these motherfuckers who don't want gun registration or simple like gun licensing and because of the slippery slope that the government's going to come and snatch your guns at some point, and they're all slippery slope all the fucking time until it comes to something like this, until it comes to Elon Musk putting chips in people's fucking brains, until it comes to, well, we got to get rid of the illegal immigrants because we got to make room for the robots. It has nothing to do with fucking American jobs, you dumbass. And that's what this is. This is because whether he's a gang member or not, I'm comfortable with saying if he's guilty of beating his wife, fuck this guy. And if he's in the country illegally, he can be deported because of it. But I want to make sure. I want to make sure. Because if you don't bother, then the legal precedent becomes you don't have to bother. And there is a very short distance from snatching people who legally have a visa or legally have permanent residency to citizens that have revoked their rights as Americans by committing a crime, that has yet to be adjudicated, being snatched and put out of the country, put in Guantanamo or sent to a prison in El Salvador or fucking flown out over the ocean in a helicopter and pushed out. That's why we have these standards. America is better than a lot of countries because of these standards, not in spite of them. Trump seems to think it's in spite of them because he's dumb. And I don't think she was ready for what she signed up for.
This victim was even braver because she was married to one of the top MS-13 members who was illegally in our country and a terrorist.
Because you declared him as such, and that was before he was declared a terrorist. And secondly, no, because she's a citizen. one of the things about domestic violence victims in any particular country, including this one, is that one of the hard parts about dealing with it is that if they don't go to jail, or even if they do, when they get out, they're still citizens. They can still live here. They may have a no contact order, but you can see them across the fucking mall. But when you can get the guy deported by saying that, then it's actually easier to come forward, one would think, unless he's going to send somebody to do something to her, which is the fear and whatever. And then she becomes an informant and you move her and her family and ta-da. Like, but the point is they're playing on the sympathies of people's worry about this woman, which are justified, I would argue. I don't know if they're factual, but I would lean towards concern for her and the safety of her child, yes. But I'm not going to allow that concern to be weaponized so that this idiot can burn down our judicial system and just allow Trump to snatch people off the street by men in, wearing all black and masks, showing no fucking badges. You know why? Because there's two reasons. One, it's illegal and there's all sorts of rules about it. And secondly, you're going to get cops killed. And nobody's going to go to jail for it. Because if an unmarked van full of guys rolls up on you and you're armed, legally or otherwise, and they go to throw you in the van and you put holes in 4 of them and run away, you're not guilty, even if they're police officers. She's going to get cops killed with this bullshit.
So now
Can you explain?
he gets.
Oh, go ahead.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry,
Sean.
Pam. Finish. No. You finish.
So, Sean, under Donald Trump's incredible plan to get these alien enemies, these terrorists out of our country, he is deported. He is deported back to where he came from, El Salvador. He is sitting in a prison, and every American should be thanking President Trump tonight. And
No, you don't get to use this guy, good or bad, to make me want to hate my own judicial process in an advanced country. Sorry. You might as well just be saying, we think, a lot of people think women should vote and they should be able to work and all that kind of stuff. But some of these witches need to be burned at the stake. And without any proof whatsoever, except that they weigh more than a duck, you should be thanking President Trump for insisting that I set fire to these bitches. That's what you're telling me. Trust me, bro. She's a witch.
liberal journalist who has called him a Maryland man and saying he was rightfully in this country should be apologizing tonight to President Trump.
Nah, don't hold your breath, lady.
Well, I'm trying to understand that part, and I'm looking at the timeline. I'm looking what the courts have said about him. I'm looking about what ICE has said about him. I'm looking about at even
again. If the police do it, if the police declare you're a gang member and they charge you based on that declaration, they have every right to do it. But if a sympathetic judge in their area rubber stamps what the cops do, then that doesn't make you a gang member in that situation. You could just be scooped up, and this is just how they operate in the area. LA had a big problem with this, with the gang group, with like the anti-gang task force and certain judges for a long time. Because the danger from the gangs was so extraordinary at one point that they were willing to overlook when they were wrong. Because the trade-off seemed to be worth it. But that meant some innocent people went to jail. Or some like young gang members who were violently forced into it were doing time for stuff they didn't do because they were forced to take, they were taking the charge for somebody else. And as long as it fucking buttoned up the case, nobody cared. Is that justice? It's never justice when the wrong person goes to jail for something that happened, because it means the other person who did it, the actual criminal, is out walking around still able to victimize people, which is the entire purpose of, like, justice in that term is an ideal, but keeping people off the streets who will do humans harm is crucial. But if you're just scooping up everybody and throwing some innocent people in there, you don't really have a system.
I'm having a hard time understanding why his wife is advocating for him to come back. Why is everybody saying he's a man from Maryland? What do you make of Senator Van Hollen and, you know, this performative art that he's involved in El Salvador, and of which he was unsuccessful today?
Well, America is safer because he is gone. Maryland is safer.
Why? What was he engaged in? Was he selling drugs? Was he moving guns? Was he an enforcer? I mean, you can say he's one of the tops in these things because an informant that you trust said so. But is that your singular reasoning? Was it because he hangs out on the wrong street corner? He's in the fucking parking lot of a Home Depot. So you're telling me MS-13 works in the fucking parking lot of a Home Depot on the weekends? Excuse me. Let's just run that scenario for a second. MS-13, the most violent drug gang running guns and stuff across the border, and they're violent. They chop people up. They prefer knives and the like, right? We've been told umpteen times by Trump, he's basically their fucking PR agent, that MS-13 is the fucking worst. But apparently, they don't pay very well because their dudes have to hump for, like, roofing work in the parking lot of a Home Depot? What are you talking about? Were they not there? Was it Crafts Day at the MS-13 clubhouse? Were they putting on an addition at their fucking gun cabin? What do you? It's almost like the exact sign that he's not MS-13, that he's picking up fucking work in a Home Depot parking lot. What the fuck? What? I'm sorry. Does MS-13 work like a fucking collective? Are they a co-op? They do a profit sharing thing, and when things get rough, everybody does a fucking loop. Even the big capos in the parking lot of Home Depots doing fucking roofing and tile jobs. Are you shitting me? The fact that that's where you picked him up should show you he's not a gang member. Oh my God! Like, what was he doing? Fucking selling crack to carpenters? They already have enough. Sorry.
Because he is gone, and that woman that he is married to and that child he had with her, they are safer tonight because...
Well, they don't seem to think so. They don't seem to think so.
He is out of our country and sitting in El Salvador where he belongs. These people are there.
Sorry, what crime did he commit in El Salvador that would put him in prison there? So your idea is that we're going to ship people to countries to just put them in jail, whether they've been charged of a crime here or there. So the question is he a prisoner of the United States held in El Salvador, or is he a prisoner of El Salvador returned by the United States? That would be my first question to this dipshit. Why does that matter? Well, because we have rules El Salvador might not have. And you see that little cross around your fucking neck, lady? See that thing? That's about an innocent man who was crucified just recently. I think there was a holiday about it. Because of what other people called him. Right? See where I'm going with this? And also, if you had a tattoo of that, I guess technically we'd have to send you to an El Salvadoran prison.
Because we needed to do, the government needed to do one extra step, they're saying, of paperwork. Here's why. Because initially he claimed there was a rival gang. So he's saying he's a gang member. There's a rival gang in El Salvador, which no longer exists, by the way, that could have hurt him if he had gone back to El Salvador.
Well, the gang doesn't exist anymore because they've all been rounded up and put in that prison that he's being held in?
There was no ending for him, none.
Also, by the way, you're calling it a rival gang because of the MS-13 thing. There was a gang that if you don't join them, you die. It's pretty common down there. It's one of the reasons why, besides the fact that there's work up here, that a lot of families send their young men to the United States so that they don't get carved up by these guys.
He would end up staying in this country. And President Bukele made it crystal clear that he is not returning him to our country. Our only job legally was to facilitate it if, according to the Supreme Court, President Bukele wanted him to come back to our country, and he does not want him back, and we do not want him back.
We're paying him. You're using taxpayer dollars to bribe a foreign politician to hold a man that has not been charged with a crime in their prison. You dizzy fuck. Again, you can paint this guy 6 ways to Sunday as being a prick, but you're not going to make me hate our judicial system as it's supposed to function just because it's inconvenient for your personal racism.
In our country.
Yeah. All right. Attorney General Pam Bondi, thank you for setting the record straight. Hey, Sean.
Yeah, you didn't. Good Lord. Now, here's another person who has, by the way, hit that like, share the show. It's Hal Sparks, Megaworldwide. Thursdays, we're on a little bit later, so I appreciate you hanging out. Tomorrow morning, Friday don't forget. And then regular shows the rest of the weekend and all that kind of stuff because I'm home for a stretch. By the way, Mark, I have some stuff for you, so don't let me forget. All right. And that little tickle, every time I start talking at length, I get a little tickle, and it makes me cough, and then I'm fine again. Aggravating. Okay, another guy who looks, another member of the team that looks like shit. Now, for those of you that don't know, this is, and they're all, they're all running defense on this. They're all over Fox News trying to convince everybody that our judicial system should be more like Russia's, more like China's, more like North Koreans, because ooh, scary man. No, fuck you. There is no criminal so awful that we should give up our rights as Americans and our Constitution. I'm not going to fucking tear up the Constitution no matter how bad Ted fucking Bundy is. Do you understand me? It makes us worse. Because you give them an out like that, then what's the reason for trusting the system? Why don't they just kill everybody? Why would they ever turn themselves in? Why would they ever make a deal? Why would they ever give the victim solace? Why would they ever let you track them down? Why would they ever let you take them alive? It's one of the reasons why we started mitigating rules in the first fucking place. It's because people tended to notice that if you just hang everybody for everything, you tend to lose all your cops and your soldiers and your sheriffs and your fucking posses, because if you get me, I'm dead. If there's a chance I can at least make it to a fucking judge and I can say my piece and prove my point, maybe there's a reason for me to not open fire on the guys chasing me. But now, what is it? What reason is there? They just fucking don't get it. And they're so willing to flush our system down the toilet to chase this fucking racist, punked out dream that there are somehow 25 million crazed Mexican murderers with knives straight out of mental institutions roaming the fucking streets looking for victims. And their solution is, we got to get rid of the court system. We got to stop having a constitution. I mean, why don't you just call for a purge and shut the fuck up at this point? Why don't you just call for the purge? Pam Bondi. Whoops, hold on. I don't know why this is. Play.
Tom Homan.
Oh dear, I didn't realize it was her. They both look tired.
Now, Tom, if that is not good enough for Chris Van Hollen, who traveled to El Salvador today to check.
White House releases proof of Garcia as an MS-13 member. No, they released assertions by sympathetic judges that he was an MS-13 member at some point, even. I don't know that he was, they admitted he was an active member or that his tattoos prove it.
On this aggrieved prisoner, or the folks over at some of the other cable networks.
Also, asshole, we're not talking about the prisoner. It is bad. But my concern isn't the individual guy. It's the system you are very comfortable flushing down the toilet, because I consider that unfucking American. What difference does it make if somebody's an American citizen or not if you're willing to throw out the American system at the first sign of trouble? What's the value of being an American if your default is to do the fucking Russian system or treat every criminal like Jamal Khashoggi? If that's your fucking standard, what does it even mean to be an American, dummy? And nothing soils the fucking flag more than this bullshit.
Then I guess they'll have proven all of our points tonight.
I mean, Chris Van Hollen, the guy that didn't want to sign the Laken Riley Act that protects American citizens against illegal alien criminal gang members?
No, he just wasn't comfortable with the name, using her name as a whip, essentially, to attach it to the act itself. The bill already existed. And by the way, the addition of that name wasn't to get Democrats to sign on to it. It was to get Republicans to sign on to it.
Instead of protecting Americans, his constituents, his taxpayers, he goes to El Salvador and defends an illegal alien
who has a child in his state and a wife in his state.
Deportation order that's a member of MS-13.
Allegedly.
That's been.
Oh, by the way, some of you might be going, Hal, what? You keep saying allegedly, MS-13, allegedly. How dare you say allegedly? A court said so. Well, I'm just going with what Fox News says. They're not even comfortable taking the word alleged out. So fuck off. Do you notice that? Tom Homan calls out Dem for coddling an alleged MS-13 gang member. Laura Ingraham and her producers and everybody at Fox News is, and I can understand after you've lost nearly $1 billion because of your hosts lying about shit before and getting sued, that you're not comfortable playing fast and loose with what you can and can't prove. But it's curious to me. It's curious to me that after all these assertions, here's Tom Homan saying it. She's saying it, but they still put the word alleged in there. Because they can't prove it. Because it is not proven. It is alleged by ICE. It is alleged by that judge. It was not adjudicated in a court of law. They could call him that. I recognize those tattoos make him look like he's an MS-13, though. Therefore, we'll hold him. Therefore, we'll put an immigration order on him because the standard is lower. That doesn't mean he is. If he turns out to be, then why do you worry about putting him through the system? Because if you give a fuck about America, you want that system preserved. Fox News says alleged.
A terrorist organization by President Trump. That's where he went to defend it.
Yeah, and again, so fucking what? He also declares electric cars are stupid. Ask Elon Musk about that.
It's just disgusting. The same senator who state yesterday released an illegal alien charged with murder, refused the ICE detainer, hit the street. So rather than protecting his community, protecting the residents of Maryland, he goes to El Salvador to coddle an MS-13 gang member terrorist. It's ridiculous.
Alleged.
Also, I talked to an MS-13 expert today who also showed me pictures of his hand where he says absolutely the tattoo on one of his hands was absolutely an MS-13 gang tattoo, nothing questionable about it. 2 judges said he's an MS-13 member. ICE.
Again, let's just go with Pete Hegseth has crosses tattooed, and he's got Deus Vult tattooed on his arm. God wills it, which is a Crusader tattoo that white supremacists have borrowed from the Crusades. And the same thing with the crosses. They have all been aligned with the old Nazis in the Azov battalion. Same fucking crosses. The Deus Vult thing, like tons of fucking Peckerwoods out there with 1488 tattoos also have Deus Vult on it. I also have a shirt that says Deus Vult on it because I'm in the Masons. I'm a Templar. Like I'm part. Like I through the Templar lesson we took, you end up. It's I can't talk about it. But the point is, you kind of dedicate yourself to the preservation of religious freedom. In that's what we do as part of the Templar order in the Masons. The idea that people have the right to the deepest parts of their own spirituality, and it must be protected. So that's what that means. But the way they wear it is in a gang way. Now, I have that T-shirt. Does that mean I'm on Pete Hegseth's fucking team? Think Pete Hegseth would invite me over for fucking to hang out at the cigar bar? Or do you think we both end up telling each other to fuck off? Both wear the same symbol. He's got a tattoo of it. I just have the T-shirt, though. I guess maybe that's the difference.
He's an MS-13 member. Intelligence community says he's an MS-13 member. El Salvador says he's an MS-13 member. So
yeah, but we're paying him. We're paying them to hold him. They need the money.
You know, it's just ridiculous. And as far as
well, then, by the way, if they say it and I says it, then fucking bring him in front of a judge, prove it, and go through the process. Don't snatch him off the fucking street by masked men, put him on a goddamn plane without adjudicating it. If he's still got an appeal that actually works, go through if you're so sure, what's the fucking problem? Have a trial. Let everybody see it. Fucking show, like, it's a state court, even though it's a federal charge. Show the fucking video. Like, show his hearing. If you fucking know, then what are you worried about? The issue is that Homan wants to focus on this guy and make the story all about an individual instead of his gutting of the fucking American judicial system because he's a fucking failure. Because they promised this giant busloads and airplanes full of like con-airing psychopaths out of the country. And so far, it's like a few dozen. Nowhere near the number they said. And so they're making a big stink out of this one guy because they fucked up and they know it. Because if they had to adjudicate it, you realize they've been bullshitting this whole time.
People are speaking out against us. I cannot believe for a minute there's that many stupid people in the world. Now,
I'm not stupid, motherfucker. I'll explain it to you, you fucking dunderhead. I give a shit about America and the values that make us better than this. I think you're a traitor if you want to flush our system down the fucking toilet because scary man, or if you're going to use that scary man as as cover for subverting our system in the first place. And I'm not into trust me, bro, judicial standards. I don't know why I would be. I don't know why anybody else would be expected to be okay with this shit. Fuck off with this nonsense. Bring him back, give him a hearing, and if it just proves your point, what do you got to worry about? Fucking do it. What's it going to cost you? I mean, think about the PR win it would be. Bring him back. Put him through. I'll tell you why you won't do it. Because when you put it through the trial, his wife will testify and his friends will testify. You're like, dude hasn't been in a gang since fucking 2012 when he escaped and he got up here and he's been busting his fucking hump and he does the jobs Americans don't want to. And he had legal protected status while you snatched him, which made it illegal in the first place. So he should be able to be heard. He's got a child and a wife here. He would normally get a pathway to citizenship, but he's fucking brown, so you don't like him. That's why you don't want to bring him up here. Because you're a fucking chicken shit. If he's going to be found guilty, I give a shit. Bring him up, find him guilty, send him back. But my system says you don't snatch people off the fucking street without showing them ID. You don't give them their right to due process. And you bust them out of the fucking country. And I'm like, what happened to that guy? He was bad. We got rid of him. Based on what? Some dude saw what he had a tattoo. You're shitting me, right? That's the standard now? I got news for you. Shit looks bad for Hegseth if the tide turns based on his tattoos. because the Peckerwoods are already a terrorist organization. The Aryan Nation are already designated as a domestic terror organization, and he's got some fucking matching tattoos with a bunch of those motherfuckers. And if that's the standard,
on the smart meter, she's a 0. We'll give them that. But I can't believe these people really believe what they're saying. They got to be just pushing the narrative for.
no. Fuck you, dummy. No. Can somebody please send this clip to Tom Homan when we're done with it from the show? You play like I'm not on shitter and I'm not gonna be. Forward this to him. I'll have him on the goddamn show. I will break this down for him. I know Laura isn't coming on the show because apparently she only appears on networks that are run by people who have a history of sexual assault and sexual harassment. So she's stuck on Fox for the foreseeable future.
Reasons. They can't be that dumb to think that that this person is an MS-13 gamer and a public safety threat.
Mm-hmm. One second, I'm gonna look at something up. Let's see. There's a lot of these. Damn. I think. There you go. Okay, there's the. Oh yeah, here you go. So, remember this, kids? The Othala rune, which was CPAC's stage. It's a part of several runic alphabet systems were common in the pre-Roman Europe. Nazis adopted this rune, among others, into their symbology, causing it to be a favorite symbol among white supremacists ever since. They literally built the stage in this shape at the at CPAC one year. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. There you go. GOP leaders. There you go. There's the see the. Here you go. See control command plus. Oh, okay, there you go. See the shape of that right there? See that? See this? See the stage at CPAC? See that thing right there? See that Nazi symbol right there? You gonna tell me that's just a fucking accident? That they didn't mean that. That was like, don't tell me that's stupid. That's stupid. Now, you guys also know that I have a real fucking problem with white supremacists or any other fucking racist, bigoted group borrowing other cultures' symbols for themselves, including the Nazis' use of the Odinal rune for that. And fuck them. Again, swastika is not a German word. That's the Hindi or the Hindu word for that symbol. They called it the Hook's Cross. So I don't know if my show's even on the air right now because there was a fucking swastika on that guy's armband, but you get the point.
Tom, Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, yesterday
was as dumb as the day before.
Said that he was also involved in human trafficking. Is there evidence of that in addition to the MS-13?
Or is it just that MS-13 does that and we've called him that and that's all the evidence you need? Trust me, bro.
There's some information in some files that he may have been involved in human trafficking. MS-13 are famous for human trafficking. MS-13.
Yeah, that's not an answer. Maybe they trafficked fucking him and he got free. What the fuck's wrong with you? And by the way, it sounds like you accidentally said ICE was involved in human trafficking.
Our famous.
Hold on.
There's some information in some files that he may have been involved with ICE in human trafficking.
Yeah, he worked as a human trafficker for ICE. Okay, cool. Your Honor, we rest our case.
MS-13 are famous for human trafficking. MS-13 are famous for bringing little girls into our country, minors, and prostituting them and putting them in the forced sex trade. They have also known in high schools to take young girls and
cut them to pieces because the 2 girls that died. Yes, we understand how you are using fear tactics around MS-13 to associate anybody with them or around them or near them or anybody in the same fucking neighborhood or somebody who hung out in a fucking getting work in a Home Depot parking lot.
Into the gang and put them on the street to prostitute. That's one of the main reasons. Causes.
Did he? Because again, the Peckerwood gang is the most violent. They're 2% of the prison population, and they're like 60% of the murders for hire. And Pete Hegseth has a couple of their tattoos, whether he means it or not. So, I mean, is Pete Hegseth responsible for 60% of the murders for hire that happen in prison? You dipshit.
Of their finances is prostitution of young girls across the United States. MS-13s and
then why aren't you out busting this? For real. Okay, so far, this guy ain't doing that. Insofar, you don't have any evidence that he is, clearly. But apparently, it's well known that MS-13 does all this shit. It's well known that they're a part of this. Where are the guys you're rounding up for this shit? Where are they? Because I don't even know why you're fucking on Laura Ingram's show tonight when you should be out looking for those motherfuckers. If they're like, that's terrifying and horrible and bad, and those people need to be under a jail somewhere. So why the fuck are you wasting any goddamn time on this dude? Bring him back, give him a hearing, and then if he's found guilty, send him back. It would be cheaper than you and everybody in the fucking administration having to take time away from work going after these monsters. Do you understand, like, how much time they're spending defending this bullshit to people like Laura and Hannity and stuff when they should be actually just doing the work if there's all these monsters out there? So you stop monster hunting for a while to defend this particular case when you could just bring him back, go through it, send him back. Like, if that's what you say is going to happen, then fucking do it. But you seem more interested in vilifying this dude and justifying your own fuck up, which you admitted was a fuck up. You're more of a coward about dealing with that than you ever give a shit about the things that you're terrifying us with. Dear God, they're tricking out little girls all over the fucking place. Yeah, so why the fuck are you bothering this dude? Bring him back, give him a hearing, rubber stamp, off you go. If that's what's going to happen, then just fucking do it. You don't have any proof he's involved in that shit. And while you're blathering on and all these fucking shows about this stuff, that's effort and time you're taking away from allegedly going after these real monsters, dummy. Do it. Fuck is wrong with you? Like, why would... I mean, the meeting should be, all right, put him on a plane, bring him up here. We're going to give him a hearing. You guys will see. Fuck you. If you're so sure of it, I mean, wouldn't that shut down everybody? Wouldn't that make, everybody who's defending him shut the fuck up? So what are you scared of? Oh, I know. You're talking out of your ass. And you don't actually give a fuck. You just like hiding behind the idea of giving a fuck. Like Laura.
Over 20 countries across the globe. They're actually in I think they're in 48 states, United States now. They're a big organization. But
well, then why are you wasting any time talking about this guy when you know where he is? You could bring him up, give him a hearing. He'd never be out of your fucking sight when you should be spending your time going after these guys. You don't even have to be a part of that shit.
They're not active. El Salvador, because President Bukele shut them down. They don't exist.
They're an American gang, dummy. They started here.
It's in El Salvador.
Yeah, they're also not in China either. What's your point?
Are you concerned about Judge Boasberg's contempt order and the discussion surrounding that, given?
No, because Tom Homan's job is not dealing with immigration. Tom Homan's job is to undermine the value of the American judicial system and flush the Constitution down the fucking toilet. That's his gig. So why would he be concerned? He's doing it.
Consensus among the elite legal set, Tom, that you all are defying, essentially.
Hey, lady, fuck you. I grew up in Kentucky. Elite legal set. You don't have to be part of the elite legal set to know that this asshole is making it up as he goes along.
The Supreme Court here.
No. Look, I've been doing this job since 1984. And
so it's your fault. Sorry, when did MS-13 start? And you've been doing this job ever since then? So maybe you're a member of MS-13. I think, okay, that's it. Hashtag Homan is MS-13. I think that's the only thing. I mean, how can you explain it? He's been here the whole time, and all they've done is grow. I mean, we need to check his bank records and his crawl space immediately. You've been around as long as they have before they were here, and all they've done is thrive with you around. You're certainly not part of the solution, fuckhead.
For the greatest president in my lifetime. I don't care if people like me saying that or not. He proves it every day.
No, he doesn't. Well, I mean, if you don't give a shit about the Constitution, he probably does. You're a good point.
The border today, while I'm talking to you, the border's the most secure in the history of this nation.
Yeah, because he declared an emergency just like COVID, and ran a bunch of people down there that they have not gone through Congress to pay for, which is what Biden was asking for. Because, and you know why they need, I don't know if you know this, you know why they need a bunch of people down at the border, why they have to send all these people down there? Is because some asshole built a wall and it doesn't work. All it did was create an access road on the Mexican side of it that allows people to walk to the end to private property or native land and walk right around it, which before they would have had to climb a fucking hillside and you couldn't carry your bags up that. Now they can fucking just roll a roller bag right down the street, all the way to the end of the wall. Hi. Just wait for everybody for the shift change and then make a break for it.
That in 7 weeks, and Biden couldn't do it in 4 years.
Yeah, but he's going to undo it if he can't get the funding. And it wasn't that Biden couldn't do it. It was Biden was trying to get the Congress to do it. But Republicans in Congress didn't want that to do it because they couldn't. Trump told them, don't solve the problem because I'm going to use it to get elected. So he's responsible for Laken Riley's death, because you can argue that had he not pushed for that, the border issue would have been solved earlier, or the deportations would have grown, especially for violent people inside the country. We'd have started deporting them earlier, and she would be alive.
More criminal alien gang members, public safety threats, and national security threats in 2 months than Joe Biden did in 2 years.
Prove it. Prove it. What, am I supposed to take it for granted? I'm just going to just assume that since you're not even showing anything, how do I know you're not just scooping up anybody that looks Mexican and taking them out of the country? Maybe the Biden administration was slower about it because they were actually getting criminals. They were actually adjudicating people. They were taking care not to yank people away from their families and the like. Maybe that's maybe the annoying part of the U.S. judicial system is that it's slow compared to a fucking guillotine.
I think we did the right thing. Law enforcement.
That's because you're stupid, Tom. Tom, you're dumb. You're dumb. And at best, when you do care about the victims of crime, your caring has been weaponized against you. You are being manipulated. And you are allowing yourself to be manipulated willfully, which makes you dumb.
Professionals at ICE, they swear under oath that this person's MS-13. Again, you got.
Yeah, but they don't know. And again, that's why we have judges. I mean, it's why we don't put people in trial, like in jail, just on the say-so of a cop. We get a trial in this country. That's what makes it fucking special. I got news for you. In the Philippines, they'll kill you if the cop that picks you up says you're a drug dealer. They just put you up against a fucking wall. If that's how we do it, then we ain't special.
Federal judges saying it's MS-13. I think we did the right thing. As far as the notion that, well, he had a withholding order not to be removed to El Salvador, he's not an illegal alien. He's just not an illegal alien anymore. He's a designated terrorist. There's a different.
Yeah, but that's, again, that's a manipulation. He just made that up. They're not terrorists. Drug dealers aren't terrorists. They terrorize each other. They battle each other. But the mob isn't fucking terrorists. They're not terrorizing to change the politics of something. I mean, the argument, like, what, like a horse head in a bed is the equivalent of terrorism in that regard because somebody will vote for legalizing or not legalizing gambling. Is that the level? So again, if that's true, why isn't Murder Incorporated? Why isn't the mob? How about the triad? Why just the Hispanic gangs then? Why is that? Because people in your circle aren't comfortable wondering about Italians' affiliations with the mob anymore or something? And again, so gang warfare between gangs is terrorism now. So therefore, what's stopping us from bombing Mexico? Because that's what this is really about. Declaring these gangs terrorist organizations allows us to do military strikes in other countries against them. That's what that's about. That's about us becoming less American.
Of due process for terrorists. So I think we.
And yes, I do believe in due process for terrorists. You know why? Because I don't want, after a terrorist event, for them to just snatch some fuckers up who look like maybe the guys who did it while the real ones get away. Because you do realize due process has a couple of purposes. It isn't just about finding the guilty guilty. It's about making sure that you don't charge the wrong person so that the person that actually did it doesn't get to run around and do it again, you fuckhead.
We stand by our guns. I think we did the right thing, and I think the Attorney General of the United States agrees that we did the right thing. So we'll.
Yeah, but that's because you're both stupid. You're both dopey fucks. And you like, I don't know how you couldn't imagine that. Holy shit! If a Democrat gets in office and they're not as friendly as Joe Biden was, it might be some fucking people scooped up on the street on the down low.
By that.
All right, Tom, thank you as always.
Oh, thank God. We have to get out. I'm not watching the rest of the. Look who's coming on after this. Dr. Drew. Just when you thought her show couldn't get worse. Fucking hell. By the way, it's Hal Sparks Megaworldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, and send that clip to Tom Homan because, Tom, anytime, I will talk you through how un-American you are being. And I don't know why you and Pam Bondi are such cowards about this. Trump is a big raging pussy when it comes to dealing with areas he knows he's fucked up or he's ignorant about. Just do it. If the American system matters to you, you wouldn't be afraid, but it doesn't. Other than that, I have no opinion. That's it. Okay. I think I have one more clip, but I want to remind you guys, super chat's always welcome. Please support the show. We're on because of you guys. And again, I want to remind everybody that if in the current economic downturn, that is coming about, if there's any time where you feel nervous or incapable of super chatting or being a Patreon or whatever, please don't feel bad. Just take care of yourself first. The whole purpose of this show is to enlighten and inform. I think it was a Prince interview I watched recently, like a little piece, and he was talking. They took it that he was talking about lyrics. I'll see if I can find it in music, and they took it kind of primarily as a, like he was watching, like he was talking about rap. They were trying to paint it that he was really just talking about rap music, and it was deeper than that. Let's see if I can find this guy. Yeah, so here's shorts. And, 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 and. That's him on. I know I've got him in here somewhere. Bless his heart. Oh, quit it.
What do Barbie
Not
and
you,
Ken have in
Hannah.
common with the fruit
Please
fly?
go away. Quit it. All right. Sign. I'm gonna find it. It's gonna happen. Trust me on this. It's gonna get there. Come on, man. Science shorts. I'm such a weirdo. Science shorts. Science, sciencey, science. More science. There's that. Then there's science. Greater than this. It's gonna annoy me. Where is it? Almost there. I'm fairly certain. Come on. Ah, wait. Is that it? Yes. Okay. Found it. Okay.
You talk about
This
music
is-
that's going out.
Hold on. This is We Love Prince. We just do. We just do. We just love Prince. Hold on. Little Prince symbols that one of you guys gave me at a show. This little purple 3D printed one, and it's in the other room. But we love Prince. Let me show you this little thing about Prince, and I find this particularly inspiring in terms of doing the show, like as a as a motivating thing. So she goes, he's being asked about music, but he's really talking about a lot of different things.
Right now, are you talking about any particular type of music that you don't think is such a positive influence?
Well, it's very obvious when you hear words and lyrics, whether they enlighten or discourage.
Okay, so hip-hop gets slammed a lot. Marilyn Manson gets slammed, Korn gets slammed. A lot of those acts that are, out there putting, is that what we're talking about?
It's not what I'm talking about.
No?
I'm just talking about the truth.
Just general?
Yeah. The truth is that you either are here to enlighten or discourage.
Mm-hmm. Fucking A right. I'm still pissed that he's gone. But yeah. And if anything, I am you can obviously tell I am not here to discourage. So starfish and coffee, maple syrup and jam, butterscotch clouds and a tangerine, side order of ham. If you set your mind free, baby, maybe you'll understand. Starfish and coffee, maple syrup and jam. Whoa, oh, oh. So, and yeah, I just love him. And it's almost like some spirits are here just long enough, and we don't deserve any longer with them. We didn't earn him being around. So, all right, now, is Jillian Michaels a host on Newsmax now, or is she a guest on there, or is she just on there because they offered her a really bizarre filter? It's like there's certain people that have the same kind of like redneck, but not like rednecks. Often it's about the back of your neck because you're a farm worker, which is why they were called rednecks. Unlike leathernecks, which if you're not familiar, they were World War II fighters, and because they dealt with fighters that carried bayonets and knives a lot, the Germans especially carried a lot of knives, so they would wear these leather cuffs around their neck to protect themselves from having their throat slit, because these guys would, in a fight, they would try to slit your throat, so these guys would wear a leather cuff around their neck. They were leathernecks. I don't know what this is, but they all have this same rigid red scrote-looking neck thing going on. Did they all? Maybe they all had the same acid treatment. Maybe they just go. Maybe we only see them when they've just been to the esthetician and they're getting some sort of a rub down. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But she goes, it's crazy that nobody is excited about RFK finding autism cause. So I didn't know that, Jillian. Has he found the cause? He found it? Well, I'm ready to be excited. Let's see. Let me guess. It ain't vaccines.
Well, yesterday in Washington, HHS Secretary...
Sorry, RFK Jr. digs into root causes of autism. And he found...
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. addressed an often divisive topic within the scientific community, and that would be the cause of...
No, it isn't. That ship has sailed.
Autism in children. RFK Jr. making the following remarks at a news conference.
This is a preventable disease. We know it's an environmental exposure. It has to be. Genes do not cause epidemics. They can provide a vulnerability. You need an environmental toxin.
Okay, that's not proof. That's an assertion. Also, that autism itself is not, even if it's not genetic, that doesn't mean you're going to find the crossroads. It could be, 80 different things combining, and that's what narrowly creates it in some folks. Not like, oh, they all got all these people get this one thing, and a bunch of people just respond to it badly. That would be the genetic component, asshole.
In 3 weeks, and probably we're hoping in 2 weeks, we're going to announce a series of new studies to identify precisely what the environmental toxins are that are causing it. This has not been done before.
So it's vaccines. So you're going to say it's vaccines? I mean, you said it was vaccines all these years. So, I mean, is that why it only takes 2 weeks? It's going to be vaccines. Which vaccines is it going to be? What do you think? Pertussis? Is it going to HPV? What do you think it's going to be? It's going to be that mixed with Skittles. I blame Skittles.
And we're going to do it in a thorough and comprehensive way. And
yeah, in 2 weeks. Nothing says thorough and comprehensive like 2 weeks.
Captain's log. Get back to with an answer to the American people very, very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. Well, it doesn't mean it'll be right. It'll just quick. It'll be quick.
Follow the science no matter what it says. And we will have some of the answers by September.
Sorry, is this video from the future? What do you mean 2 weeks?
And among those who support RFK's push to determine the cause of autism is Jillian Michaels, the host of the Keeping It Real podcast, joining.
Hang the fuck up. Okay, wait. No. The issue with RFK Jr. was not that he is looking for the cause of autism. Fuck you. People have been looking for it all over the place. There's a lot of work being done in this area, and it continues to be done. People don't support RFK Jr. because he's looking for the cause of autism. They support RFK Jr. because they think he found it, and they blame vaccines. His whole sales pitch was not, I'm going to be the guy that gets to the bottom of what's causing all this. He ran on, it's the vaccines that cause it, while getting himself vaccinated and his children vaccinated, so he's full of shit. But on top of that, it was his assertion that he knew what caused it that killed a bunch of fucking people.
Jillian, always good to see you. So RFK, the secretary, they're pledging that he will have some answers by September. It's ambitious. But what are your thoughts? Are you encouraged by that? That someone here that is within the health department, the secretary from this administration, actually wants to find out more about autism, the cause of autism? Your thoughts there?
First of all, wait 1 second. Son of a bitch. Okay. Let's get this. When was the timing on this? There we go. On December 23rd, 2024, Biden signed into law the Bipartisan Autism Collaboration Accountability Research, Education, and Support Act, or the Autism CARES Act of 2024. It's the most comprehensive federal law addressing the urgent needs of children, adolescents, and adults with autism over its 17-year history. This law has resulted in a significant increase in our understanding of autism and related neurodevelopmental disabilities. The CARES Act is crucial to maintaining and improving the monitoring, training, and research programs focused on improving the lives of children and adults with autism and other neurodevelopmental disabilities and their families. There is still much work to be done to improve the quality of lives of people with autism and their families. AUCD is tremendously grateful for the leadership of the Representative Chris Smith, Henry Cuellar, all the folks that signed onto it. It creates a coordinated response and increases investments across the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to address the rising numbers of children and adults diagnosed with autism. The reauthorized CARES Act continues key programs and investments such as AUCD's Leadership Education and Related Disabilities, the LEN programs, which trains health professionals from a variety of disciplines professionals to their ability to screen, refer, and provide services. Members of the AUCD includes a national network serving every state and territory of 68 university centers for excellence, the UCEDDs, 60 leadership, education, and neurodevelopment and related disabilities, the LENS programs, and 15 intellectual and developmental disabilities research centers, the IDDRCs. Together, these centers and programs provide a direct national impact through the direct services, the development of new professionals, and the use of new knowledge generated from our research. This has been around. He reauthorized it in 2024. I don't know when it's 17 years old, so it's been around for quite a while. What's the other one? Hold on. Let's see. Hold on. Autism. Hold on. I'm going to try to find this. Hold on. Quit. Yeah. Okay. While researchers haven't pinpointed a single cause of autism, evidence suggests it is likely a combination of genetic and environmental factors interacting during brain development, which is just what I fucking said. Thank you. Genetic factors, including spontaneous mutations and inherited variations, play a significant role. Environmental factors, such as prenatal events and exposure to certain substances, also contribute to the development of autism. There's genetic factors, the de novo mutations, inherited variations, syndromic versus non-syndromic ASD, environmental factors, prenatal events, exposure to certain toxins, maternal health during pregnancy, postnatal environmental factors, exposure after birth, fetal origins of autism. Some studies suggest that certain maternal health conditions during pregnancy may be linked to an increased risk of autism in the offspring, interplay factors, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Here's Harvard in 2020. Abnormally levels of a key protein observed in brains of young men with autism spectrum disorder. I'm not sure, but I think February of 2020 is before this September. And they didn't stop looking. National Institutes of Health. This is, when's this one? 2006. Tracing the Origins of Autism, A Spectrum of New Studies is the title of this one. This fucking, I don't understand. I'll try not to get upset. And I'll get very, irritated, yeah? Well, I don't understand what they're saying.
It's not Irish. It's not English.
How are you? Fair, what is my kindness for the horses, you know?
It's just pikey.
Related video on this from a friend of mine, Krista in Canada. Excuse me, RFK Jr., but no, my autistic kids are not destroying our family. What is destroying families? Ableism, misinformation, ignorant comments like the one you made yesterday. You don't get to use our kids as political pawns. You don't get to paint neurodivergent people as burdens just because you don't understand them. I mean, that's the Trump way in a lot of ways. And again, the idea is that if it's curable, you want to cure it. But the idea that you can also use them as a cudgel because you don't like vaccines or you're pandering to fucking hippie chicks you're fucking on the campaign trail, and it's easy to like lead them up to the bedroom if you sell them a raft of shit like vaccines cause autism. They're like, oh my god, finally somebody's speaking the truth. Sure, this drink sure is salty. Glunk.
Very much so. Listen, can there be a genetic predisposition? Of course there can. But what he's saying is, if genes load the gun, it's something environmental that is pulling the trigger, and he wants.
Yeah, that's true of almost every genetically based disease, dummy. Of course. And again, what makes you think that you'll be able to remove that environmental trigger? Stupid. And by the way, I'm sure what this loads up, she's convinced that it's vaccines that have it.
To get to the bottom of what that is.
Yes, and people have been trying quite a bit. My point is, he didn't invent this shit, and he's not going to solve it by fucking September. And you're not going to like the answer he gives. If he actually bases any of it on fucking science and they can show their fucking work, you're going to be upset. Because you think that you can avoid that off switch. And if it's fucking like microplastics and everything, get ready for the entire Trump administration to tell RFK Jr. to go fuck himself when they look at the bill for removing plastics from the environment.
Autism has skyrocketed over the past 2 decades.
Yeah, because we also recognize it, and the spectrum is broader. We used to just call them different names. It's like cancer numbers went up after we stopped using the word consumption.
1 in 50 20 years ago. Now it's 1 in 31 kids. And it's crazy that not everyone is elated about the fact that he's trying to get to the bottom of this.
I'm not elated about it because I don't trust him. He came in with a bias, and when his answers show up and you don't like them, you're not going to buy it. You're not going to go, oh, I guess vaccines are fine. You're not going to do that. You're going to go into some bullshit about the government's hiding something from us and the deep state or some horse shit like that. If you're not, here's the problem I have, Ms. Jillian, is if you're excited that he's looking into it, why haven't you been excited when Harvard does? Why aren't you excited when the National Institute of Health and Health and Human Services have been looking into it since 2002? Why would I be excited that he's looking at it now? Because he's biased in one fucking direction? You think that's the problem? Unless you think that all these people have known for a long time that there was one thing in vaccines that was making all these kids autistic, and they were just like, I don't know, but it makes them cheap. I don't know. It's a great preservative. I mean, who cares if we lose, 20 out of 50 fucking kids over the next couple of decades? I mean, cha-ching. Like, if you actually believe that shit, you're a lunatic.
For one, am very happy with what he's been doing, and I can't wait to see the results.
Indeed.
I know what the results are. 3 dead kids from measles so far. That's the only change I've seen HHS before to HHS now. That's really the only material difference. The only thing that's different between last year and this year is we lost 3 kids to fucking measles for no reason. And they won't be the last.
Information, right? Like, let's find out. Let's hear what he finds. That would be great.
Exactly.
Totally. So here's a good idea. Why don't you go look at the studies that have already been put there, that they've already put out, that you can Google. Go to ChatGPT, go to Gemini, go to Claude, go to any of the, whatever your AI, go to Grok. Fucking Grok will tell you that there's been a myriad of studies. It'll even do a broad-based study of all the studies and give you a generalized answer. And it ain't going to be vaccines.
Be wonderful.
Asking questions.
Yeah.
You're spot on.
Yeah, I'm just asking questions like the Jewish question. And
I think we should be outraged that no one has done this previously.
right. They have, you fucking twit. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. that no one's. What do you think people do? Are you out of your fucking mind? Do these people think like that? Is that what happens when you just live on your fucking phone all the time? Are these just screenagers? Again, this is a study from the National Institute of Health.gov, NIH.gov, a spectrum of studies, multiple studies, and then they're like mixing and matching, trying to figure out what could be the upsurge. Some scientists believe that much of the upsurge is the result of an increased awareness of ASDs or of the autism spectrum disorder. As they broaden the spectrum, that made more kids like that, or changes in diagnostic criteria, which would suggest that the true prevalence of the disorders has been stable over time. Others disagree. It's premature to state that there is no increase in prevalence, says W.I.N. Lipkin, a professor of neurology and anatomy and neurobiology at Columbia. None of the studies to date has been designed to definitively address this issue. Here you go. There's the charge. So, childhood autism risk from genetics and environment charge project is unique among the large ASD and epidemiological studies. It focuses solely on autistic disorder, and it emphasizes a search for environmental factors, including a broad array of chemicals in food, consumer products, ambient air, as well as infectious and medical exposures. That would include vaccines that might be linked to the disorder. And the study is funded by the NIH, and it started in fucking 2000. I mean, this is from fucking 2006. So no, I'm not reassured that this human scrotum wandering around fucking hippie chicks by blathering conspiratorial Alex Jones nonsense into their ear canal while he's on the campaign trail is somehow the savior of kids with autism.
That's where we should be really upset, is why hasn't this been done before?
I'll tell you what's upsetting me is that you pretend to give a shit about it and you don't know it has. You assume it hasn't. No wonder you fuckers voted for Trump on that station. Like, it's just like this enforced fucking ignorance. Is that how these folks live?
The fact that it's being done now, and I've heard the top criticism of, he's getting people's hopes up that we can have this by September, and that's not realistic. Who cares?
Well, I think partly the people who've been working on it for a long time that know there's no there there, they have done studies on it, that he's getting people's hopes up, that there's a magical switch. There's, that it loads the gun. They found the finger on the trigger and you'll be able to cut that finger off and it'll never be able to fire again. And that's a problem because a lot of people like her do believe that. You can see that she's all four whites. She's showing her whole eyeball in this, which is like, this is what you see in like fucking hypnosis victims.
It's 6 months later. Who cares? The key is that we're looking for answers.
The key is that we have always been looking for answers, and you didn't give a fuck until now. So here's something, Jillian. I'm gonna suggest this. I've never. She's on as a guest, I guess. Right? Because she's not on their station. She's on the show. Here's what I would suggest. Fucking Google some autism studies, and you'll find hundreds. Nobody is sleeping on this shit. Nobody shrugged it off and went, fuck these kids. Or went, we can't say anything because it's vaccines. It's insulting. It's gross. You're full of shit. And even if she was on here saying, well, they should have done it this way. We've seen their studies before, and they always seem fixated on talking themselves into a corner, and they never reach a conclusion because they refuse to go down this road. They refuse to ask the hard questions about vaccines, even though they've done it several times, right? Even if she says it that way, that's very different. Not accepting the results is different than just fucking pretending they don't exist.
We should be really happy about that, in my opinion.
No, I agree. The New York Times, of course, has a different viewpoint. So I'll just share what was published recently. Writing, the scientists have not ruled out the possibility that both genes and environmental factors could influence whether a child develops autism. Still, there is no evidence to suggest that autism can be avoided, and researchers immediately criticized that suggestion. Experts said there's a legitimate research to be done, examining potential environmental factors, but recoiled at Mr. Kennedy's apparent all-or-nothing approach, which seemed to discount entirely the merits of continuing to study the genetic underpinnings of the condition. Jillian, just your thoughts there and their viewpoint.
Absolutely. I liken this to skyrocketing rates of obesity and
you can't diet and stop being autistic. You might have an allergy that affects your cognitive function, and you can take that away, and doesn't exacerbate elements of your cognitive function that exacerbates your autism, perhaps, or your ADHD. That's entirely. Grains tend to do that. Certain cytotoxins in vegetables will do that. That's a possibility, but it doesn't get rid of the autism.
the drug companies love to push on the public that obesity is genetic and it's a disease, despite the fact that in 2013...
Hold on. Wait a minute. The medical community does not push obesity as a fucking genetic disease. What are you talking about? That is not the prevailing thought on the obesity epidemic in the United States by any stretch. Some people are predisposed to carry extra weight, and therefore they have a harder time shedding it, and they put it on easier due to bad diet or extraordinary number of calories or a response to insulin, insulin sensitivity due to the amount of sugar in their food. That would be the sort of genetic precursor to that. But none of them are like, well, you can exercise all you want, but you're not going to lose the weight because you just have the genes to weigh 1,000 pounds and you're just going to be stuck in a fucking apartment. People are going to just have to pour fucking Big Macs down your gullet until you die. Stupid. No.
All of the experts on a panel within the American Medical Association voted that it wasn't, in fact, a disease and that it was a predisposition. So when you look at what has triggered skyrocketing rates of obesity, arguably it's a more sedentary lifestyle and a huge amount of ultra-processed food.
Right, but not a disease. And again, the people who are obese may have a genetic predisposition to carry or keep more weight, and they might have to exercise more, or they have to modify their diets even more stringently than other people to keep their weight low. So when I did the 23andMe, which God knows where my genes are now, I hope they're being used properly by the people that are cloning me in Siberia. But one of the things it said is that I have a predisposition genetically to be underweight. Okay, it says that genetically I am predisposed to be underweight. It does not mean that as I'm older, I won't have trouble getting rid of, abdominal fat like men do and that kind of stuff, like whatever. I am going to, if I lean one direction or the other just by, coin flip, I'm going to weigh less than my counterparts of my same height. Okay, genetically. If that's true, and it is, then it stands to reason that there is a reasonable portion of the world that is on the other side of that has a predisposition towards being heavier. Obviously, there's some, medium folks in there that we run into all the time and are irritated by or whatever. I don't know, whatever. Maybe that's the dad bod dudes. But the point being is that if I can have a genetic predisposition to be underweight, somebody can have a genetic predisposition to be overweight. And therefore, the sedentary lifestyle and processed foods will have more of an impact on them than it will on me. And so if they want to reverse those impacts, they are going to have to do more work to reverse those impacts than I do. Doesn't make it a disease. It's a genetic predisposition. There are people, though, that put on weight just because they're slovenly fucks. We're not talking about them. It's like when you're dealing with homelessness, there are people who are homeless because they are mentally ill. They have to be institutionalized. They're never going to have a job in a fucking apartment and a family and get their shit together. They're broken. Their brains don't work. They're either from drugs or mental illness, but they need help. Then there are people who are, alcoholics and they need treatment, or they're drug addicts and they need treatment. And once they get treatment, there's a very strong possibility they can work their way back into society, but it's going to be a long road. And they need a mixture of institutional help and shelter together, and perhaps keeping drugs away from them for that period of time. And then there are people who just fall through the fucking cracks, who miss rent and they end up sleeping in their car and they're like, fuck, and they need help to get back up. And so simple programs can get them an apartment, Section 8 housing, something like that, get them back in a place and get them off the street, right? So they're all homeless, but they all are solved by different methods. And then there are, which we had all over Venice, they have all over San Francisco, Portland has a bunch of them, the intentionally homeless, people who are totally comfortable with like a vagabond drug lifestyle. They are literally drug tourists. They go to cities. If they hear that a city like Portland, when it legalized drugs, there's a shit ton of people from the San Francisco Bay Area that went up to Portland to live and do drugs because it was legal and you didn't have to worry about going to jail and you could just sleep in the parks and they wouldn't do anything about it. Those folks are assholes, and they're different than the people who fell through the cracks, who are addicts that need help before they can straighten themselves out, and they really are under the thumb of that, and people who are mentally ill, right? Okay, so we've got 4 categories of homelessness there. If you want to solve homelessness, you have to solve for all 4. You can only solve for different degrees of all of them. You can 100% solve for the mentally ill. You can institutionalize them. You can build mental institutions, and you can take people off the street who hear voices, cannot dress themselves, are like covered in sores, and their brains are effectively broken, and you can medicate them and then try to get them some level of physical comfort until they pass away of natural causes without drugs basically addling them until somebody runs them over with a car. That's 100% institutionalization. The other group, you can put in a program, and if they stay in the program, they can have access to moving from a shelter to someplace with a private room, and that has stages. And you about a third of those folks you can work with. They'll make it, and it's a rotating thing because the other 2/3 will either cascade into the drug tourists or will burn their brains out and become mentally ill. But a third of them you can salvage, and you should try to salvage them all, but you can only solve a third, okay? Then there's the group that falls through the cracks. All of those can be saved, like fucking a suit and a haircut, jobs programs, fucking get them a college education where there's a dorm and they can live in the dorm. They'll be happy as anybody to get back on their feet and start a new life. You could solve for 100% of those. The institutionalized and the people who fall into the cracks, you could solve. The drug tourists, the fuckers who choose it, who think the world is Burning Man and are basically sovereign citizens, you can't solve any of it. They have to come to their own conclusion after a while, and it usually requires jail, ladies and gentlemen. So there's 4 different areas of homelessness. If you care about homelessness, you have to address all 4. When you're talking about this shit, when it comes to obesity, there are a myriad of reasons, from acute gluttony to a genetic predisposition or a thyroid issue or an insulin issue where people can't help but put on a ton of weight, and it's really frustrating, and nothing they do seems to they put on so much weight so quickly it kind of shocks their system, and moving hurts their joints. So working out has an extra level of pain and difficulty to it on top of the fact that they have to do it. And then there are people like me that I can take working out for granted, which is sometimes a problem because, if I stop working out, I still look okay. But if I want to truly be healthy, I have to work harder because because I'm that close to it. You can kind of, that's where those like people who are like, they seem perfectly healthy. And then the reason that is because they took it for granted. They look relatively healthy, especially compared to everybody else. So there's a cascade. And what this asshole wants to do is, because she's in the business of shaming people into losing weight, specifically because she has a narrow band of customers, and her customers are the people who ate too much and know it and want to get their act together. And so that's who they go to. And so she's used to talking to those people. And so she is used to only discussing this issue with people in one slice of this entire fucking pizza pie of why people become overweight or underweight. And you'll notice also that she's not discussing people who become anorexic or bulimic or painfully underweight, which is just as damaging and dangerous. She doesn't address them at all because she can't blame processed foods in this kind of externalized boogeyman. This is what happens when you don't realize you're in a cul-de-sac.
How come 20 years ago, right, if this is genetic, how come 20 years ago it was 1 in 50 kids and now it's 1 in 31? That's a quantum leap for genetics.
Because of the volume of food. You're genetically predisposed if you have access to the calories. The access to calories has gone up. That's why.
So wouldn't the argument
And monosodium glutamate. I don't know what to tell you. Fucking Doritos.
be, how do we get back to where we were 20 years ago and arguably 50 years ago? What is
Yeah, coffee, hard-boiled eggs, the Colombo breakfast, and then or steak and eggs if you're a detective, and gruel for children. I think that will work. Just something that makes them feel full, but they aren't, so they stay skinny. And a lot of butter on stuff. Full fat, no skim anything, because your body won't stop craving stuff until it's satiated. And if you eat, well, it's another conversation.
behind the skyrocketing rates? It can't just be genes. It doesn't work that way.
No one said it's just genes. That's the point. No one said it's just genes. That's a matter of fact, in these studies, it's all talking about how when genes are triggered by environmental factors. The assumption, though, from her point of view, is that the environmental factors are directly, she's equating it with obesity because that's her realm, that it must be food related. Now, it might be, but it might not be, the processed foods that she's made a boogeyman of. It might not even be MSG or any of that stuff. It might very well be the prevalence of grains, for example, that we went into this thing of like, we're trying to be healthier. So we put more grains in things when people have a reaction to it. Even like peanut allergies, which have shifted a lot. And we had a big rise in those and then it's dipped a lot over time. There's still people with that allergy, but there's fewer and fewer kids that have it. And of course we have, the available, remedies for it. But part of it was because there was a fungus on the shells that was getting into the processing for a long time. And then they kind of quietly were like, oh shit, that's what it is. And they got rid of it. And so it's improved over time. Right? Point being is that she's used to dealing with like food and food additives and that kind of stuff because she's trying to get people back to a purer diet, which is a reasonable thing to do. And again, if you eat whole foods and you cook them yourself, it's often cheaper than even the processed stuff. It won't seem, and don't undersalt it, and don't, sodium and salt aren't the same thing. High sodium and like additives, it's not the same as sodium chloride, table salt, pink sea salt or whatever on your food. And then eat full fat stuff and you'll be satiated. The U.S. sells rice to China. It's true. We sell a lot more soy to China than we sell rice. China buys 80 to 85% of their food from there, but I look good with my skinny jeans. There you go. GERD is a huge issue now too. GERD. And read your book. Okay, Kathy. See, if you're being exposed to pure sodium, you're probably working in a chemical industry. Exactly. GERD is gastrointestinal reflux. It's like right. It's chronic reflux. It's the singer's nightmare. It's actually why, and this is curious, I don't really have acid reflux as a problem, but a lot of times singers will get it because they squeeze their abdomen, their belly, and physically they'll squeeze acid up their esophagus, and it will hurt your vocal cords. A lot of people get that. So I will sometimes eat like a Tums before, if I have a big night of singing, to lower the amount of acid in my system, because while I'm singing, sometimes you'll push for those notes and it'll Ermagerd. Yeah. Hitting sugar, crouching salt, right. Tums are yeah, I don't do any purple pill kind of stuff. It would just be topical to that evening. And it's not because I have it, it's to protect against it. It's kind of a prophylactic, if you will. The issue that I have, and I'll let you guys go, I went over, but I think I'm more irritated with how much these sorry, what's that organization you support for better farming practices? Well, Robin, I did the I mean, there's Farm Sanctuary, who are lovely, but also I raised money for Prop 2, which was the like ethical farming bill in California. That's another thing that has to do with farm animals and how they're treated. So there's a lot to the American diet being co-opted for what's tasty and the like. But the irony is that a lot of the damage, I think, that's been done, and this is my own personal opinion about this, has largely been done in an attempt to get people to eat better because they were coming from a position of, okay, we've done studies and this seems to be good. So if a little is good, a lot is better, which is usually wrong. And the greatest example is, I think, that it was like in defense of his, you know, how much weed and how strong the weed he smokes. Cat Williams had this thing is like, you know, like if you have a headache, 2 aspirin will do you right. But if you have, you know, 15 of those things will be the last headache you ever had, right? Is that more isn't necessarily better. And if you really want to look at how people lived a long time ago and how healthy they are, look at their diet. It's, you know, look at the meals they ate for real. They weren't frozen dinners. They weren't like, they were basically, there was some vegetable dish, a piece of meat of some sort, a piece of chicken, a piece of beef, a piece of pork, something like that. Mashed potatoes, usually to make yourself feel full if you were working class like we were, and a milk, full whole milk. And the reality is they consumed a lot more fat, but they were thinner because your body gets satiated and it doesn't need it, doesn't crave, it's not hungry all the fucking time. And different grains. Well, that's always part of it too. But the crucial part of it is that when in doubt, if you're ever, you know, worried about that kind of stuff, start trying to just simplify. I've always said this, and this is my own, you know, I will never, ever try to be an RFK about this stuff. But I decided for myself a long time ago that if I'm ever depressed, it means I'm thirsty. And if I'm ever angry, it means I'm hungry. And the simple reason for this is that this is my logic when I was a kid. And it works. It's worked out so far. If you're ever feeling sad for sad's sake, hydrate yourself. Because as we evolved, if you are hungry and you need food, being aggressive is helpful. Biting something, attacking something, killing something, climbing something, pulling something, stealing something from, you know, your neighbor. Anger is your friend when you're starving. If you need, like, because it will make anger, you know, anger can make you nuts. And if you're nuts, you will attack an animal bigger than you and kill it to get some food. Okay. And so we've evolved to the point where when we're hungry, we get hangry. That's where that comes from. It's a natural process because you can do something about hunger most of the time. Even if it's like literally like cannibalism. Like there's a point where your brain just goes, kill something and eat it, right? Like that anger serves in the process. It does not serve when there's no water around. If there's no water around, you can be pissed all you want. You can scream at the sky, but no water's coming down. So if you're between the rains and there's very little water and your body will slow down and will conserve energy. You don't want to sweat, you don't want to release any of it because you got to preserve as much water as you can. So you will mute, you will lower yourself, you will shrink down and thirsty looks like this, whereas angry looks like this, right? Like hangry looks like that. So, and this is not about sadness, which I think is a genuine feeling. I'm talking about depression, which is not based on a sad moment, but a generalized feeling of like, bleh. Your body will conserve water and conserve motion and slow down because the rains aren't going to be here for a while and we've only got so much water to go around. And maybe if the dew happens tomorrow, I can drink a little of that, but I'm not expecting any water coming in. So your body will start to mute itself. Okay. So you will be depressed, literally in the material sense. Yes, you'll sleep a lot. You'll conserve your energy because you can't make it rain no matter what you do. And in the, maybe there was a time where you can keep walking, you can trudge to go to where water is. Like your body is kind of built. Like that's why depression, sometimes you can solve that by going for a walk, not a run. Same thing. Your body feels like we're moving towards water. Right? So even if maybe you'll still be depressed after you drink some water, but and have some electrolytes in it so you absorb it. You need enough salt. There's a reason why salt is so valuable. They used to say the phrase "he's worth his salt" is an old Roman phrase where they used to pay their soldiers in salt because it was so valuable, and it's how you absorbed water and kept it in your body. That you needed some with it. That's why, like even the Gatorades and this stuff have salt in them. They have electrolytes. So if you're feeling down, drink some water. This is my advice. If you're feeling angry, have a bite to eat. And if you're going to have a bite to eat, have something very fatty. Even if it's a fucking pat of butter. If you're pissed off and you're just like, fuck, God damn it, eat a pat of butter. I'm not kidding. Now, you might still be mad, but you'll be more in control while you're mad. And you might still be sad when you drink water, but you'll be more in control of your sad. It won't be you won't get out over your skis with that. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes. Yeah, not Brondo. Don't drink that. The other thing too is if you're depressed and you're feeling like panicked or anxious, pay attention to your posture because more and more people are on their phones like this, or they're like this, or they're leaning over like this, and you're squishing your abdomen. You're squashing your lungs down on your diaphragm. And that means you're breathing in the top of your chest. And so there's like 3 places in these are your full lungs. And you breathe in, your belly comes out. Okay. So if you're scared and you're running from a monster, you use the top of your lungs. That's how, like when you're running and you're grasping, all the oxygen exchange happens up here. And there's an AB logic to your breathing that says, if I'm breathing like I'm scared, I must be scared. Even if you're just breathing like you're scared because you squashed the bottom parts of your lungs and you only have room to breathe into the top of your lungs. Does that make sense? If you press against your chest, like if you have a band on or like this, which is why a lot of trans men who wear binders or women who wear corsets a lot of times can be very anxious in spite of the reality around them and not realize that they are constricting their rib cage and therefore limiting their breath to the top of their lungs, which is where panic happens. And your body will go, if we're breathing like this, we must be running from a monster. So you get anxious, okay? So what you want to do is breathe into your gut for those moments. That's why all yoga, I will argue, tricks your body into not being able to breathe into your upper chest. So if you ever do like a pose like this, right? I'm very sweaty. It's hot in here. or you're doing this kind of twists or whatever, where you're doing a stance or whatever, the reason is because by putting your hands out like this or whatever, it literally pushes in, because of the muscle needed to keep your arms stable, on your upper chest, and your breath has to go into your belly, which calms you. So what I would say is, if you're ever feeling anxious, and believe me, there's a lot of reasons to feel anxious these days, nothing wrong with it, not shaming you for it, but you should feel the right amount of anxious for what's really going on, as opposed to the wrong amount of anxious or an exacerbated level. So breathe into your gut. And if you ever feel yourself like, oh, fuck, look at yourself, and you're probably on your phone like this, or some equivalent, or you're sitting watching TV and your chest is compressed on this. So you're breathing like that. Just recognize it. Just recognize it when it happens. Doesn't mean that you don't have a right to be anxious or that your fears aren't warranted, but you only want your anxiety and your anger and your sadness to match the real circumstances in your life, and no more. We don't want indulgent sorrow or self-involved narcissistic anger or aimless panic, because I believe true sadness, genuine anger, and concern, which is anxiety before it's turned in on itself, actually has value. Humans have value because of all of us, not just when we're the little piece we can get away with being. It's why my symbol that I use, this guy right here, is, 4 arrows intertwined, pulling against each other, creating balance, because you're not your best self or you're not your worst self. You're the tension between the two. That's who you really are. The person, when I'm talking to you, when I meet you, I'm not talking to the best person you could hope to be or the worst shit you've done in your life. I'm talking to the person who balances those two things, and like they're on a fucking balance beam or a high wire, with their jobs and hobbies balanced on a pole, trying to keep themselves steady. That's who you really are. It's who I am. We're not our best selves or our worst selves. We're the tension between those things. And when you're really angry, you should own it. You should never have to worry, am I just angry for the sake of it? Am I being indulgent or full of shit? Am I wallowing in my own sorrow? Am I making this sadness about me when it's really about somebody else? Am I indulging in this sadness so much that I am fucking useless to the people around me when I could be helping? You shouldn't have to worry about that. And the way you avoid worrying about that is just check in on your physical self and go, okay, I'm not breathing right, and I need a glass of water, right? And I'm going to go get something to eat so I don't bite anybody. Zula's happy birthday. So anyways, there ended the lesson. I just thought I would reiterate that. I think it's super important. Tomorrow, Rob Glenn will be joining us for Friday Eye. Boy, is there a lot of stuff going on there. Holy shit. And then tomorrow, I got to do this fucking Easter thing, because maybe I have to come back on the air and do it, because Trump spoke at this fucking Easter thing, and it was just awful. Anyways, love you guys. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. And I will, let's see. Does this button actually work? I made it. It should. We'll see. So far, so good. Hey. Yeah.